Major developments today on FEMA's plan to put parts of Marana into a floodplain. News 4's Christy Tedesco joins us now with more on that. Christy.
That's right, Tom. Basically, today's news means that Marana residents who thought they'd have to buy flood insurance right away now have at least a year of reprieve. FEMA delaying the release of its new flood zone maps at the request of Marana officials. So Marana residents, they have been sweating this for months because it would have meant an estimated $4,000 a year for flood insurance for them. News 4 reported all the way to Washington, prompting Congresswoman Gabrielle Giffords to step in. Well, a letter this week from FEMA says, and this is it, the agency has agreed in principle to suspend issuance of a preliminary flood insurance map for the county and agreed to provide Marana with an opportunity to restudy the areas of the map.
FEMA released preliminary maps today that designated almost half of central Stockton and northwest Lodi as floodplains.
Paying that flood insurance, I guess?
Not really, because of the length of time it's been since there was any significant flood.
But still, you got to buy.
Still, you have to buy.
For instance, a typical homeowner can purchase flood insurance for just over $300 a year. But if they wait until the final plan comes out, the cost skyrockets to almost $2,500.
Oh, I'm going to buy it now. We don't have a choice. You know, we're going to have the insurance.
Although Stockton hasn't flooded in 50 years, staying dry isn't a sure thing.
You know, we have yet really to see the 100-year flood.
My name's Norm Westwell, and I'd like to speak on, I think it's item D3 tonight, about our flood plan. I am deeply concerned about our flood plan. I'm real concerned about what these federal officials are ramming down our throats. I think we need to take a real hard look at it. I don't have all the answers, but I know how it's affected me, and it's been in a negative way. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Westbrook.
Mindset to let the markets decide. If you're a homeowner and you want to live in a coastal flooding area, a high-risk area, then find an insurer who's willing to cover you. And then if you want to take on that high-risk premium you're going to pay for that kind of lifestyle because it's a nice area or what have you, then pay it. But if an insurer will not cover you, then don't expect the government to be in the business of bailing out recklessness. It's reckless. If an insurer won't cover you, what does that tell you? That tells you you might be in danger here. This is not a smart way to live.
These people are...
the government should not be in the business of subsidizing reckless behavior. At some point, the writing is all over the wall.
The government is jerking the city of Buffalo and the city of Lackawanna around.
Congressman Brian Higgins doesn't believe the old First Ward and parts of Lackawanna belong in a federal flood zone. He slammed the Federal Emergency Management Agency, saying their national flood insurance program is the worst federal program he has ever encountered.
I don't know that the congressman is fully informed on the value of the flood insurance program and the amount of money it actually saves the federal treasury.
Houston, we have a problem.
Federal government, a bureaucratic arm of the federal government, came into Western New York in the last several months. And the federal bureaucracy that I'm talking about is a Federal Emergency Management Agency, or FEMA. And what they basically did is they went to all our communities here in Western New York and said, guess what? We're going to change the flood mapping of your area, and we're going to require families living in some of these areas to be put into the floodplain on the new mapping and then get stuck, frankly, paying thousands and thousands of dollars in flood insurance to the federal government for a product they don't need and they'll never be able to collect on unless there's a national emergency, a flood emergency, that would probably have to raise the water level by 2 feet compared to where it would be naturally, have foundation damage, and have a national disaster proclaimed, a state disaster, and a local disaster proclaimed by the leaders of the government. And then, maybe then, you would be able to collect. Now, I understand that FEMA does have a purpose. We need a federal agency to respond to emergencies like down south when there's a hurricane like Katrina or other disasters like that. People need assistance. They need help. But that same federal agency does not have the inherent right, especially as a non-elected bureaucratic government agency, they do not have the right to come into Western New York, an already depressed area that pays the highest taxes, that pays the highest gasoline prices, the highest home heating prices, and come in and try and pick our pockets for yet even more money that equates to about anywhere from $30,000 to $50,000 per average home that's being shoved into the floodplain unnecessarily over the course of 20 or 25 years. You will see in Wheatfield that there are signs similar to this. I brought this sign. This was from the Wheatfield United organization. There it is. Turn it this way. But this sign will be appearing on many front lawns in the town of Wheatfield, and there is an independent volunteer citizens group that formed an organization to work with fellow residents and also work with us, the local government, in fighting and challenging FEMA on these floodplains.